All right, everyone, we need to talk about Joe, specifically Joe Biden, because, he's warped. There's no other way really to put it at this point. And I'm seeing people on the left now, finally, I think, come around to the realization that something is desperately wrong with this man. First, you remember that corn pop incident where he was talking about how he, threatened that one bad dude, that gang member back in the greaser era, practically, back in the 60s when he was a pool lifeguard. How he was a bad dude, he wore the greaser jacket, and he had his razor blade, and he would hit it on the curb and get it all rusty, and, stupid shit like that. Well, I didn't realize this, and I don't think anyone else did either. But there was actually other stuff in that particular speech that he made, including talking about kids rubbing his legs up and down in the pool in order to watch the hairs come back up. This is relevant to politics, and it's not creepy, number two. That he likes having kids jump into his lap, and then he learned a lot about roaches. Now, in the context, I'm not sure what the fuck he even means. Roaches, do you mean smoking roaches? Like, joints? Or are you talking about the insect? Because I honestly don't know in the context. If you look at the greater context of that part of his speech, it doesn't make sense. And then he's talking about having hairy legs and how his hairs turn blonde in the sun. And, it's just weird. And that was strange enough. But then the other day, he's at a rally. His wife is speaking, sort of leading him up on stage, and she's gesturing like this, and his head is fairly close to where her hand is gesturing. Now, this was amusing, and he was sort of grinning at it at first, and it was funny. Then he just randomly decides to nibble on his wife's finger. Now, it would be maybe considered humorous and cutesy if it weren't Joe Biden. But because he's so off the wall, it's like, it just comes off as weird. It would have been funnier if he had pretended to duck or something like that. But then again, this is Joe Biden. He's incoherent. The dude is clearly demented, and he's the Democratic frontrunner. If they're crazy enough to nominate him, he's not going to make it through the general unscathed. He does this with fair regularity. He's done this more than maybe once a month since he's begun campaigning. You got to remember that corn pop speech was, I believe, a couple of years ago. Just think, he's had more time for his brain difficulties to metastasize since then. They're certainly not sending their best and brightest to spar against Donald Trump. I keep looking at that Dem field and trying to figure out a way the Democrats can win, and no matter who it is, it's a long shot. With Joe Biden, it's practically assured that they lose, and he's one of the more viable ones. You got Booty Judge there. Booty Judge Gabbard ticket would be funny just because you'd have two people that are both under 40. Come on. Joe Biden doesn't even know what year it is. It's no longer even amusing. It's funny to crack jokes about the situation, especially at the Democrats' expense overall. But I almost feel sorry for those around Biden that have to understand he's just not quite all there. There have to be some people around him who are very reluctant to continue endorsing the idea of a presidential run. I think Biden wants to be in the White House again. He was one step from it under Obama. And he said, Obama's relatively popular. I should be the one that's going next. But Hillary Clinton preempted him, and he sat it out. He sat it out because Hillary Clinton had basically a blood contract with the Dems. I will allow Obama to be in there, and I will endorse him, begrudgingly, if you give me Secretary of State, and as soon as he's gone, whether he's a one or a two-termer, you let me get in. That's basically what Hillary Clinton did. Joe Biden then, when Hillary Clinton failed, took several years to figure out whether he wanted to run at all because he's fucking old. He's 76 years old. He has early stage dementia. There is no other way to put it. Do you not know the warning signs of dementia? Does Biden not tick every friggin' box? The legacy media will never discuss this. They won't discuss Bernie Sanders having a heart attack or Joe Biden very obviously, visibly having signs of early stage Alzheimer's disease. They will, however, ramble about Trump speaking the same way he's basically spoken since the 1990s, as though somehow the situation has massively changed. I find that very telling. The thing is that with Joe Biden, even if he weren't demented, he'd be a long shot. What does he represent? Obama nostalgia. He's sitting there, what is he talking about? Kids rubbing his legs at the pool, and then he eats his wife's finger, and this became a massive meme. Oh, it trended everywhere. It went totally viral. But for all the wrong reasons. But I'll tell you what, I don't expect it to stop Joe Biden's candidacy. Despite the fact that any rational individual looking at this would determine that the man is not all there and it's probably not a safe bet to run him against Trump, there's a large group of people in the Democratic Party. They will never vote for Trump. They will vote for a Democrat, if they vote at all. Let's face it, his coalition's the coalition of the board, mostly. But they're terrified of the far left, and they realize that nobody else other than Sanders and Warren in the field is viable anymore. Buttigieg is basically their last hope of having anybody else they can glom onto. The problem is that Buttigieg may have a hard peak in the next couple of weeks or month, and then go back down like Kamala did. If that happens, the race is basically over. Barring divine intervention, which would be Sanders is incapacitated, drops out, endorses Warren. Basically, oh, I endorse the person that's got 99% of the same platform but doesn't use the term socialist to describe it. Or Warren drops out like she has a sex scandal or something. She says, oh, well, Bernie Sanders is where I stole my platform from. I'm endorsing him. Barring something like that, it's going to be Joe Biden. And it'll be hilarious if it is. Oh, my God. I'm eagerly awaiting watching sleepy, incoherent Joe Biden attempt to debate Donald Trump on economic issues. Trump will say something, I gave people tax relief. Oh, no, it was a tax cut for the rich. Oh, no, the middle class. It'll be hilarious. It'll be really, really funny. It'll be a lot more exciting than the last campaigns that we've had other than 2016. That one was a humdinger. I thought it was great. By the way, since politicians act this way in the behind closed doors anyway, Trump's just honest enough to act that way in public. I actually respect him for that. He's not doing anything that Biden wouldn't do. It's funny, like on World AIDS Day comes by, and Biden's like, whoa, we need to protect LGBT people, and there's a lot of stigma and stupid shit like that. It's like, yeah, and Joe, you were politically connected to the 70s. Like, you didn't make gay jokes behind closed doors with the good old boys. Bullshit, dude, of course you did. It's just that nobody recorded you doing it to crush your campaign now. How sad. It would be funny if we got to see him make a joke. What was that movie about the dude who gets AIDS? I think it's Tom Hanks playing him. He's like in Philly or something. He gets AIDS, and it's this big thing about him, basically fighting some legal battle and fighting for survival. And at the beginning, like, his boss makes some sort of joke about gay men faking orgasms using yogurt or something like that. I'm just thinking of Joe Biden, like, around the same time, probably acting the same way. Let's put it. Remember, Obama, his messiah and mentor and lord and master, was a civil union Democrat in the mid-2000s. It wasn't until he got elected that he said, oh, yeah, gay people deserve more rights than I wanted to give them back when I was in the Senate. Hillary Clinton wasn't even on board with that. She made it as plain as day. She was in favor only of marriage between a man and a woman when she was running for the Senate. That was in the 2000s. Right after Bubba Bill leaves office. It's not ancient history. It's not even 20 years ago. She didn't even support, I think, civil unions at the time. You're trying to tell me that if Hillary Clinton and Obama weren't on board with it, that Joe Biden was like some messianic figure within the gay rights community? Joe Biden, the dude who helped pass legislation with segregationists back in the early 70s? Yeah, I didn't think that anyone would take that claim seriously. Watching him fall apart is amusing until you realize, I've seen dementia up close and personal, so that part's not ever been funny. Joe Biden being zany is. But really, it's more about the DNC's just fucked. The Democratic Party is fucked. They're crazier than him. That's about all. Peace out.